What is going on, everybody? We are back for another December edition of the Double Switch podcast. Nothing's happening, no news since we last spoke. It's a slow time of the year for baseball fans. Johnny, how you doing today?
I'm doing good, Josh. I'm happy to have our Mets buddy and favorite guest, Dan Kern, back on the podcast. Things look a lot different in the MLB since we last talked to Dan. I'm excited to kind of get into it a little bit. Dan, how you
Yeah, and they
doing?
look a lot. They look a lot different up there in City Field because Dan, I don't know if you've noticed, but your whole team left. No one's left. I mean, you got 40-year-old Max Scherzer and a couple infielders. Everybody packed up and left after your early postseason exit. I mean, it's got to be rough up there.
Yeah, you know, it's tough. I don't really know where to start with this, to be honest with you. As a Mets fan, I'm kind of used to not going in with high expectations, and I'm kind of looking at the 2022 season the same way. It's like, do we have DeGrom? Do we not? Do we have, our bullpen? Do we have Bassett? Do we have McNeil? Do we have, Nimmo, who I think Nimmo is probably going to leave. It sounds like he's going to leave, but a lot of those guys that have been key pieces for us this last year especially are like teeter-tottering that line of like they might just go. And they're all exploring free agency. So, if they leave, that frees us up with a lot of money to spend. But yeah, like you said, just pretty much Scherzer and a couple infielders is what we're down to right now.
Yeah, it's weird because usually when teams go into free agency, like the Phillies have like one hole they have to fill. They have a shortstop hole. The Mets have like there's so many different possibilities for what this team looks like next year. It's weird to just leave the door completely open. If I was in a fan of a team like that, I wouldn't like that feeling because like you like continuity and you like the same guys over and over again. But I feel like it might be good for the Mets to kind of just rebuild an identity because I haven't seen a team go into the playoffs like that and win 101 games, and like there were certain points throughout this season where I thought for sure they were going to get to the World Series, like at least win NLCS type stuff. Yeah, it's got to be just disheartening to be in the clubhouse for that, and maybe it's a good thing, the turnover that we're going to see this winter.
Yeah, it definitely is shaping up to be an interesting. I mean, you got winter meetings coming up, I think, the next couple of weeks. So it'll be really interesting to see who stays and who goes. But back to your point of like heading into the postseason, I was lucky enough to make it up for game 2 of the wild card. And it was a great atmosphere, but it was just everybody was so on edge because you have all these guys that are like all these fans that are like at every pitch, they have such a different emotion. Like DeGrom throws the ball, everybody's like, F him, he's gone, let him go. And then the next pitch, he, strikes out a guy in 3 pitches. And it's like, he's the king of the world. It just doesn't make sense. And I feel that a lot of Mets fans are so conflicted in their feelings, especially, I mean, my entire childhood, I was like, the Mets are going to suck every single year. And they haven't failed me wrong except for a couple years where they've shown some promise. But yeah, definitely heading into the postseason, I mean, you drop that series to the Braves and that breaks your heart. But then again, it's like we just won 101 games. We've only done that once in franchise history, and the only other time we did that, we won the World Series in '87. So it's like, can't really be mad with that regular season, and then to lose 2 out of 3 to the Padres at Citi Field is just disheartening. There's no other word to describe it.
Yeah, I never really got on you too much about that because, I think the one thing us Phillies and Mets fans kind of have in common is we're really passionate. Like you were just talking about how everyone was yelling at DeGrom every pitch. I got to a playoff game. People are crazy. Cussing out Rhys Hoskins left and right. I mean, we're also a little bit insane too.
Isn't that deserved though?
What's that?
Isn't yelling at Rhys Hoskins?
I don't know if we want to break open that can of worms.
No, I'm just messing.
That gets Phillies fans a little crazy if we bring that up.
Yeah, so where do you even start if you're the Mets this offseason? I mean, you have a full list What are you looking at in terms of, as a fan, who do you really want back, and who do you want to target? Who do you want to target to fill the holes that you're not bringing back? Because there's no chance all of them are back. Like, you're not going to see DeGrom, Nimmo. They're not all coming back. Like, you're gonna really pick and choose who you want back. How are you approaching this as a fan? I mean, what do you want the Mets to do in these next couple months?
I mean, I think that every Mets fan has their list of like favorite players from this year or the past 5 years or whatever it may be. Number one on my list is Jeff McNeil. I want Jeff McNeil back as a utility player, as an everyday second baseman. However you can get him back, because not only did he just win the NL batting title, but I've watched a ton of Mets games this year. Whether we're up by 15 or down by 15, he's playing with the same heart and same intensity from start to finish. So he's number one.
Is Jeff McNeil, is he a free agent or?
I think, he is. Him and Nimmo are both free agents this year.
Okay.
But there hasn't been a lot of talk about McNeil. But then on the other side of things, it's, do you go and get Trey Turner and create that middle infield with him and Lindor? Like, what do we do in that scenario? And that's where I'm very conflicted. So I'd love to keep Jeff McNeil as a utility player. He doesn't want to be a utility player. He's going to want to be an everyday second baseman. Then you move to the outfield. I think it's about time we cut ties with Brandon Nimmo. He's been very good. He's been very solid. But I think it's just about time. His efficiency and his productivity over these past 2 seasons has been below what we expected. And it's definitely below the average for the free agents at center field. I think we can get a lot better offensive production out of a center fielder than him.
Dan, I have to object because as a Phillies fan, we have not had a legitimate center fielder since Shane Victorino. And I think Brandon Nimmo is far and few between because there are not a lot of good center fielders out there. I know his price is going to be wild, but I think he's an important guy to bring back for the Mets. Just because of that scarcity at center field.
We got a timeout here. Rays and Eflin just came to an agreement, 3-year deal.
Oh shit! How did they give him? Did they give him more than $12 million?
I'm not seeing a price, but
I mean,
he got his 3 years. Good for him.
Man. And they're probably going to make him into Cy Young.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. The Rays are going to turn him into like Corey Kluber. But speaking of free agent pitchers, I don't want to like change the subject too quickly, but do you think we've seen Jacob deGrom for the last time in a Mets uniform?
No. I think we will do everything in our power. We will trade the entire team before we let Jacob deGrom walk. And they're keeping it kind of low key. They're letting him explore his options. They said, I saw a report last week that said that the Rangers fear that they can't give him what he wants money-wise. So I think we're going to throw the bag at him and see if he bites. And if that means losing, a couple key offensive players, that is what it is. But I think our biggest issue right now, though, other than, depth in our starting rotation and bullpen, is our offensive production this year. It's been good, but it has not been to where it needs to be. So I think that's the main attack for us this offseason. It's offensive productivity.
3 years, $40 million, Johnny. So, I mean, we were right on the ball with $39 million. Dan, so DeGrom's probably going to get $35 million a year, and he's 34 years old. And as we've seen, you think more, Johnny? Damn.
He's getting 40.
42.
Yeah, so he's 35, and we have seen him not be able to put it together for 200 innings for a couple years now. I mean, durability is not really his thing. I wouldn't be too enthusiastic. I know he's the best pitcher on earth when he's healthy, but he's just going to get older, and he's not exactly aging super well. I mean, the stuff's fine, but the durability's not. Is that how you would prefer to do that? Because Carlos Rodon's 6 years younger and looks at times just as filthy. And I know they've been connected a lot, so that's another option.
I'm not saying that I agree nor disagree with getting DeGrom back. I'm saying that I think that's what will happen. You're right, though, with his durability. I mean, the past 2-3 seasons, he's been riddled with injuries. And, it's very hard to look at that and justify $35 million when he's only playing half to 3/4 of the season, if that. sometimes not even a full season. But I do like the idea of going after Rendon and, letting DeGrom walk. I don't think it's going to happen, but in my mind, yes, to let him walk, bring in Rendon, maybe a good bullpen arm. I really don't know who, but to have Scherzer and Rendon 1 and 2 in your rotation, probably have Bassett back, and then have Ottavino in the bullpen as well would be ideal. And then, of course, you got the best closer in baseball. So
that's true.
Subjective.
I don't know who's going to get you from DeGrom to Diaz, because didn't you guys lose like your whole bullpen?
Yeah, Ottavino's still there, so that's all that matters.
As it stands today, this is where the topic kind of turns in our favor. Do you think the Mets? I mean, we don't know what's going to happen, but assuming certain stuff happens, I mean, we know how it's leaning. Assume the Phils get the big name shortstop. How do you feel about the Mets' chances going into next season? Would you put them as the top of the division? Kind of like they were this year with the Braves. Would you put them second behind the Braves, or would you put them third behind a Phillies lineup that includes a big name shortstop? Johnny, I'm actually going to go to you first on this. Where would you rank those three, assuming this kind of unfolds how we think it will?
I think if my offseason prediction comes true, I think that we flip to 1. The Mets. I have a real tough time deciphering who I think is going to be 2 and 3, but I still feel like it could be the same as last year, where all 3 of the teams get into the playoffs. Like again, I think that's very likely. I think we're the NL beast, and I do think the Phillies will be the most aggressive this offseason and push themselves over the top.
Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I really don't have crazy high expectations. I mean, we won 101 games last year, but it really all depends on who stays, who goes, and who we get in free agency. I would say we're second or third, and we get that last wild card spot. I'd say that's where my expectations are right now.
Yeah, I honestly just thought about my answer, and I kind of think the Braves are still going to win the division, and I think we're both going to get a wild card. Yeah, I kind of had to correct that one. It didn't feel right when I said it.
Is Dansby? Are there? I've heard talks, but is Dansby? Do you guys think Dansby will leave?
I can't imagine. He's a Georgia guy.
Yeah,
it just doesn't make a whole lot of sense unless they're going to be cheap. Unless they're going to be real cheap on him.
After Freddie walked, I just can't imagine them letting like clubhouse guy he's kind of like the leader of the team now. Like, there's no way they let guys go like that in back-to-back off seasons.
Especially after you hear some of this stuff about how Ronald Acuna is kind of a baby in the locker room. like frankly, he's just a little bit selfish. I've heard. Great player, awesome player.
He's like what, 23, something like that.
Yeah, he's like younger than me, I think.
Yeah, he's young and he's got the world in his hands, and he's arguably one of the best players in baseball when he's healthy. So it is tough with younger guys like that, though, trying to control the locker room. And so, yeah, I think you're right. If Dansby stays, I really don't think the Braves are losing to anyone in the NL East, at least standings-wise.
I
also like that we just threw the Marlins into 4 automatically. We have
They're just the default 4 team in the NL East perennially, just forever.
Until they hit a baseball.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, Sandy can only do so much, but no, it's going to be a good division again. I think it's going to be one of those divisions, I think it's going to be kind of like this year where, I mean, you saw the Mets and the Braves in September. Literally, it came down to a series in Atlanta. Dan, did you kind of feel like everything that you guys had going for you fell apart when you lost the division to the Braves? Because you guys were hunted down. You were hunted by the Atlanta Braves. And to get a wild card game with 101 wins, I'd be pissed if my team won 101 games and got the wild card spot.
I was upset, but if you look at how the Braves played in September, it didn't matter if we won every game. They were going to be right on our heels. I mean, they were the hottest team in baseball pretty much August and September. So I'm upset with how it went, but I really liked our chances playing at home against San Diego. I really thought we were going to go 2 games and done. And it didn't go that way. And, that's the way it goes. But, yeah, I was a little upset. But then again, you can't, like I said earlier, you can't really downplay the regular season we had. We still won 101 games. Although it kind of fell apart there at the end, still 101 wins.
Dan, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
Do you think just kind of like the shortcomings were just plain bad luck, or do you think it was a certain aspect of like how your team is constructed, like not enough power, too much strictly contact, too pitching heavy? Like, do you think it was like kind of how the lineup roster was balanced, or do you think it was just shit luck, poor timing?
It was definitely shit luck, poor timing, but it was also we had no power in our offensive lineup. I mean, you can't be relying on Pete Alonso and to hit the ball 430 plus feet every time he swings the bat. You can't have that. That's where like guys like Nimmo, yeah, he can slap the ball the other way, but I'm not counting on him hitting for power. I'm not counting on him hitting double in the gap. And up and down the lineup, it's kind of more or less the same. So it was definitely a big power issue. I think we did go a little pitching heavy this year with signing, Scherzer, Bassett, all those guys, Carrasco as well. Like we went pitching heavy, and I liked the approach, but we sold ourselves short on the power aspect.
I actually saw an interesting tweet. I don't remember who it was by, but it made a really good point because if you design your team around like getting the base hits and play base to base baseball, you get to the postseason and you go up against Joe Musgroves, you have Haters, you have Robert Suarez, Yu Darvish. It's not that easy to get hits. That's going to work against a national staff, but it's not going to work in the playoffs against these pitching staffs that you're talking some of the best rotations in baseball. Yeah. And the part of the reason the Phillies actually found so much success is because say what you want about the Phillies lineup, and for all their issues, home runs are not an issue. They definitely have the pop. And when you're just able to change a game with a swing like that, like, just a 3-run bomb by Rhys Hoskins ends up being the difference in the playoffs, where you could try to single it out against Joe Musgrove when he's got sticky stuff on his ear and whatever. But I mean, the guy's nasty, and it's just not going to work in a game like that.
It's kind of coming full circle, man. This whole thing, because I remember last podcast, I was like, Dan, like I kind of like envy like how you guys like put the ball in play and like I think that's what consistency is. And then like it turned out that I guess flashy pop and timely home runs is what got us far. But
I mean, it flipped the script. I mean, like we looked like a totally different team game 1 of the wild card, and I was like, oh my God, I bought my tickets to game 2, and I was like, do I even go? And then my buddy was like, it could be DeGrom's last game in a Mets uniform, and I was like, oh, okay, I'll go. So I don't regret going, but it definitely was not the same team we saw all regular season, and that's what upsets me the most because we played the whole season unified no matter what happened. We played, first pitch to last pitch, great baseball, just gutsy, hearty wins. And then we kind of just like kneeled down and just like didn't really produce anything in those 3 games. I mean, game 2, I was there. They hit 2 Lindor and Alonso's home runs went right past me. And the stadium was jumping. Everybody was into it. And then game 3, I don't know.
Did it absolutely kill you to watch the Phillies get red hot in October and go all the way to the World Series?
No, because I have respect. Yes, because it was the Phillies, but no, it's because I have respect for how far you guys have come. Like the years that you guys have just been downright atrocious, we've been there. So I understand the happiness. Now I have some people on, social media and stuff that I'm friends with that like have never even seen a game of baseball before, and they're like, go Phillies. I'm like, you don't know what you're talking about. But anyways, nonetheless, it's like, yeah, I'm frustrated that it's the Phillies, but I'm also kind of happy for you guys because we've been in the same situation for years as you guys has well, like just downright terrible. your fan base is like cursing you out on radio, TV shows, and everything. Like, you guys kind of deserve it. I'm really surprised you got that far, but you kind of do deserve it at the end of the day. So I'm not going to talk too much crap about the Phillies right now.
Johnny, would it have absolutely crushed you to watch the Mets make it to the World Series if that happened?
Honestly, not as much as the Braves this year.
Oh, you guys are being way too
Wait,
nice.
hear me out.
I would have been.
Hear me out.
Okay, all right.
Hear me out. My whole thing is, I don't like seeing teams like the Dodgers or the Yankees succeed.
Yeah.
Yes, we are big ballers like those teams, but we've been very, very. We've not achieved as much as we thought we would in this past decade. Neither of us. So I don't want to see the Mets just be horrible forever, because that doesn't stoke a good rivalry. I think if I would have liked to see the Mets in like an NLCS or something like that. But if they were to win the World Series, yes, I would be upset. But I would have not been mad if we didn't make the playoffs. Alternate reality, I would have liked to see the Mets go far in the Braves.
So who are you rooting for in the Padres Mets series?
I was rooting for the Padres.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought anything would be different than that. I don't know why.
So you would have been cool with the Mets going far, but you would have preferred every team in the National League playoffs to go farther besides the Dodgers.
Yeah. Yeah.
That doesn't sound as good as you made it sound.
No. When you put it like that, it actually doesn't make any sense.
Kind of like a double negative if you really think about it.
Yeah.
I'm honestly confused right now.
Dan, so Braves, Phils, who are you rooting for?
Oh my God. I feel like that's a harder question for me, because you gave him Padres Mets.
Yeah.
I got two division rivals. If you would have asked me this 5 years ago, I would have said the Braves. Now, pains me to say, but probably the Phillies. My hatred for the Braves is just so deep over the last couple seasons, especially this past year. So, I would probably have to take the Phillies.
I figured after things kind of ruin your season.
I wouldn't watch a single pitch.
Figured.
I wouldn't watch a single pitch of that game, but I'd probably have to take the Phillies.
Hey, Josh.
Yeah.
Do you think the Braves have kind of hijacked the Phillies-Mets rivalry over these past years?
Because no.
I feel like it used to, when I was younger, it used to be so much simpler. Like, I hate the Mets, and now it's like, what the Braves? I hate them so much too. How do you deal with it?
The Braves have snuck into this whatever we got going on here, us and the Mets. But I mean, you look at this past season, how many freaking Mets Phillies Sunday Night Baseball games were there? There was like 4. Like, this is a prime time rivalry, and it's a shame that the Mets kind of dominated it this year. It's weird that the Mets kind of dominated it that badly. Like,
okay, all right.
It's weird to see like a team. I mean, the Braves who won the exact same amount of games. We didn't have as many issues with the Braves. I don't know what the problem was with you guys, but it's a shame that couldn't have been a little closer. But I mean, we're the NL East rivals. Like, all things considered, I mean, throw the Marlins out the window. The Nats are like not even they're a new team.
Yeah.
The Braves, they have rivalries with us, but it's always going to be the Phils Mets that kind of run the NL East gauntlet in terms of the big rivalry.
Yeah, to piggyback off that, the Braves, no matter how many meaningful games we play against them, the history we have with the Phillies will always overrule that rivalry. I mean, just the years and years that we've hated each other, it will never be trumped by the Braves.
Yeah, on top of that, 2 big cities close together, Philly and New York are close, and 2 big markets, the Philly and New York markets. The Atlanta market, it's a big market, but it's not like the Northeast markets in terms of like the Bostons, the Phillies, New Yorks.
Mm-hmm.
No, not yet, and I don't see it getting there with the Braves.
No.
All right, well then I have a follow-up question. Do you guys think that the Phillies-Mets rivalry, if they both kind of maintain like this winning trajectory they're both on, think they can like become a little more poppin' than the Yankees-Red Sox rivalry? No. I think it's a boring rivalry personally.
I think it is, but it's like I was just talking about with us and you guys versus the Braves. It's the history. I mean, there will never be a longer rivalry in sports than Yankees Red Sox. It is boring because the Red Sox have sucked the last couple of years, but it's still Red Sox Yankees. It'll be up there though. I'd say it's going to be one of the top rivalries in sports or in baseball at least, but I don't think it'll ever beat that.
Yeah, that might be the
pinnacle.
I can't think of any more off the top of my head. That might be the best rivalry in sports.
Yeah.
It's tough to match that. We might have the claim to the second spot. I mean,
I just feel like our fan bases, like the Mets and Phillies passion, is a little it's strong. I mean, like seeing both those stadiums in the playoffs this year kind of showed me it's like if this goes on, like we both succeed for the next 10 years, like it could be some really fun games between these cities. And we're so close, closer than New York and Boston.
Mm-hmm.
I'd like to really see a September with both of us like kind of vying for first place, and that's when you'll see it. That's when you'll see this rivalry at its best if it comes down to that. But
yeah, like one of us 1-2 games back going September 1st, like just seeing how that shakes out. That'd be really cool.
What it's all about.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's it'll be something to watch this season for sure. And we're kind of getting near the 30-minute mark. So one last question for both of you. Dan, give me your best moment from the season and your worst moment from the season.
We already know the worst. Worst, game 3, losing. And I really like Buck Showalter calling out the pitcher and being like, who's got sticky stuff on it? I mean, his ear was red hot, but like, who knows? It's fall baseball. He could just be getting warm on one side. Who knows? But best moment, there's a few, but it's probably got to be the combined no-hitter. I mean, just everybody kind of coming together, playing really good baseball, and that's what we were known for was our bullpen and our starting pitching. And not so much our bullpen, but our starting pitching, bullpen really, really came up big. And then, of course, you got Edwin coming in and closing the door. But that was probably the pinnacle. And we started going up, and then, plateaued and September hit. And I don't really want to say we dropped, but we definitely kind of flatlined there.
Johnny, what you got?
All right, the worst. I was torn.
I can't believe I haven't asked you this yet. I feel like
you haven't.
We're in December and like we haven't even talked about it.
I know. We're saving it. We're saving it for now. Keep everyone excited on their toes. But I was gonna say that Mets no hitter, but then I was like, no. The Astros no hitter in the World Series sucked the life out of me because I invited a bunch of friends over. I'm like, the Phillies are good. Like none of them knew baseball. I'm like, no, the Phillies are gonna kick some ass.
They threw up a goose egg.
Well, and they're all like looking at me. They're like, when are they gonna hit the baseball? I'm like, oh my god, this is the worst day of my life. But the best had to be the bedlam at the bank, Bryce Harper, that rocked my world, and I still get chills thinking about it.
I can just picture you like throughout the game trying to stay positive, and then they just keep not getting hits, and you just becoming deflated.
They're like, everyone was like, well, when do they usually start hitting? I'm like, yeah, by now.
Yeah. Oh man, yeah, we knew by the fourth inning that was going to be a no hitter. Let's be real here. Everybody watching knew it was going to be a no hitter.
There was Nora.
I got a question for you guys before we wrap up, real quick.
Yeah, what you got?
One free agent you guys go after. Who are we going with? Josh, we'll start with you if you want to kick off.
I like Xander Bogaerts. Probably not what you were expecting, but I just love those. I love the floor. I feel like he's got such a safe floor. At his very worst, he's going to bat like 290, and he's just so consistent. I mean, I like spending money on the consistent players, and it's probably not the best idea. You kind of got to go after like the high upside guys, but yeah, I go Xander Bogaerts.
Johnny?
Oh, that's a tough one because I want a pitcher and a hitter, but if I got to pick one, it is probably Trey Turner, just because I think it'll be a fun fit. He's played with Harper and Schwarber. I think it would make for a good clubhouse presence too, and a shortstop for 8 years, which would be nice to be sure of. What do you got?
Me?
Yeah.
Trey Turner.
Ooh.
It sounds like we're gonna have a bidding war again.
You think he wants to play center field?
I don't think he wants to play center field. He's gonna play second base.
That's not his main position either.
He's a middle. He's a shortstop. He can play middle infield. These guys are, they can flip flop. And I'm sure with Lindor, if you have Trey Turner, who's a great fielder, fast as lightning, and can hit pretty decent, I'm sure Lindor would be open to switching to second or taking a day off or something.
That would be interesting if it happens.
Yeah, I don't think it's the most reasonable thing, but right now that's my stretch in free agency.
Hey,
Shohei's off the table.
Nothing wrong with dreaming.
No, absolutely not.
I don't know if we can win a bidding war with Steve Cohen, to be honest.
I don't think anybody in the MLB can, to be 100% honest.
That's
I think we would just have to be the player's preference. I don't think we can out money him.
Yeah.
For sure. But yeah, I mean, with that being said, we just hit the 30-minute mark. Dan, it's been real. As always, I wish the best for your Mets, unless it comes at the expense of my Phils.
It'll happen eventually.
Yeah, hopefully next time we get you on here, and maybe before the season starts, we'll kind of know like what the teams have and like what the season's going to look like. But yeah, always fun talking to you about this fun rivalry we got going on.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me guys on. Had a blast. Appreciate it.
Yeah, we'll get you on once we know a little more about what the 2023 teams look like.
Sounds good to me.
It's been fun, man.
Yeah. And as always, thank you guys for listening. Check out Pick Swap Media for all your Eagles and Sixers stuff. And we'll talk to you next time.
Go Phils.